We bring in our guy for our regular Friday chat. He is Eric Dungey, who once, Erica, extremely memorably ended your regular season football career at Boston College by nearly getting chucked out of the game and then having one of the best games of your career. Crazy times sometimes when you head on out to BC.
Yeah, you know what? You never know what to expect. I thought I might as well revamp the rivalry somehow, and why not? By getting a little chippy. But you know what? I think Boston College, anytime you play them and you got that rivalry game, emotions are always going to be running high. I hope Syracuse kind of goes into it with that mindset and with that attitude, and they just carry over that momentum that they had against that huge second-half performance against Virginia Tech, and they just continue to roll into Boston and get another win here. I think it's going to be a pretty even matchup, but Syracuse definitely has the upper hand. As long as we're able to take care of the ball, I feel very confident with us going forward. And you know I'm already pumped about LaQuint Allen last game. I mean, he had his moment, and he stood up, and he shined. 21 carries, 121 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and just running the ball. And it was really cool to see because as we've seen throughout the season, you know, Kyle McCord in the pass game has what we've been relying on. And then you saw in that final drive, they are going to the run game. They're going to LaQuint. And that's just a lot of the faith and belief that Coach Brown has in LaQuint in that run game. So that was cool to see, and they established that. So this offense is just continuing to grow and becoming multidimensional in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, you've been on LaQuint here for a long time, and now, I mean, look at the 2 overtime games this year, right, Eric? It's been LaQuint, 2 overtimes, and he has both overtime touchdown game winners. I'd say that's not a coincidence, right, with everything we know about LaQuint and how he goes about his business.
No, it's not. I just think he's one of those guys, and regardless, he's not complaining about touches, not complaining about carries. But when his number's called, he's going to make the most of it. And as we've seen, he's been incredibly reliable. And I don't think people give him enough credit. Yeah, we talk about the UNLV touchdown to win it, but can we go back? And if he didn't get that first down where he was 4th and short, and I mean, he broke the tackle, that was just him and his pure effort there. If he didn't make that play, then Syracuse doesn't even have a shot to win that game. And then he really just drove it home for Syracuse there against Virginia Tech in the stretch. So having a guy like him, and he's just getting stronger and stronger throughout the season. I guess the only good side about him not getting many touches early in the year is, guess what? He's going to be a big bruising back, and all these linebackers who have been getting run over and everything else, they're hurting at this point. And guess what? You got to tackle a guy like LaQuint Allen, who's fresh and ready to go, and he's always coming downhill. I'm excited for that. And, you know, this offense is just continuing to get better and better. We had the one big slip up against Pitt. That was kind of an anomaly there. But I think as far as, you know, the future of the season, there was a lot at stake here, and there's still a lot for grasp. I'm just looking at the schedule. I mean, Boston College, this is a huge – every game is a huge game at this point in terms of, you know, ACC play. But I'm just, you know, Miami is a very questionable team. I've been watching them throughout the season. They always kind of start slow, and they find a way to have these huge fourth quarters. But there's obviously some cracks there with Miami. So if Syracuse can just win out and continue to do their thing and then stick it to Miami at the end of the year, they can put themselves in a pretty solid position, granted if Miami loses or drops 1 or 2 more.
Yeah, there is, you know, it's not the easiest way to find a path still to Charlotte for the ACC title game after the Pitt loss, or when you factor in the Stanford loss, but there are ways to get there. You're going to need a little help, but I mean, obviously Miami will be favored in that game, and we'll talk about that in due time. But I don't see any reason right now why it can't be a competitive ball game for sure. You know, back on LaQuint here a little bit, Eric. Whenever I talk to Kyle McCord about LaQuint, I'd say the second thing he mentions, the first thing he usually mentions is that this LaQuint guy's a little nuts, so we kind of like it. The second thing he usually mentions is he is a great pass blocker. When you have a running back, for you, that was probably Dante Strickland, right? Like when you have a running back that can pick up the blitz and be that guy, how comforting is that?
Oh, it's incredibly comforting. And I think as a quarterback, that's what you want. Yeah, you want a great running back who can make all the plays and kind of take the load off of you. But if he's an absolute liability in the run or the pass game, as far as pass blocking, then what use is he? And LaQuint just has taken that head on, and I think that's one of his best aspects that he brings to the team is his pass blocking and his knowledge there. So no wonder. And he does kind of remind me of Dante Strickland in that fact of, you know what, I mean, I love Dante. Maybe he's got a little screw loose in him a little bit, but that's what makes him great. And, you know, I think that's what they need to have. I mean, anytime you're villainly running, you know, full speed at a guy who's 100, 120 pounds or more than you, and you're running him over, you know, you're definitely a little cuckoo in the brain, but I appreciate it, and I know LaQuint just has zero fear, and that was the same way Dante ran as well.
Yeah, the screw loose is a feature, not a bug. It's what you need. need to succeed at
Exactly.
at that spot out there. And man, LeQuint was just outstanding last week. And you know what that led to? Also, you know, we talk about it like he ran the ball 8 million times. You know, it was 20 some odd carries. It was a lot, but it wasn't like an ungodly amount. The Orange still threw the ball more than they ran it. But the balance felt like right last week, Eric, didn't it? You know, the Pitt game was you couldn't move the ball on the ground. You threw it 60 some odd times and nothing really worked. It really felt like good offensive balance last week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what Pitt was expecting, I mean, we got in the hole early, so they're obviously expecting the pass, and they just pinned their ears back, and you saw what happened to that. But when you're able to establish a dynamic offense when it comes to throwing and running the ball, you got to keep the defense on their heels. You know, you can game plan up anything you want, but when you know a team's going to be pass heavy, especially when they're down, you know, that changes your whole playbook defensively and offensively. You know, you kind of set yourself back. So you're battling an uphill battle, but if Syracuse can rely on it, and they did, which was great to see. Like I said, them running the ball at the end of that game really just established their faith and their confidence in the run game. I think that's going to be huge. And not only that, but other defenses and other defensive coordinators, they see that as well. So they can't just pin their ears back, and they have to become multidimensional and understand that there's a couple cracks that could slip through, and they have to be prepared for it. And you know, if you have a quarterback like Kyle McCord, who's a very savvy, he's very veteran, he's going to find those cracks and he's going to expose you. And especially once he's got that confidence back. And you know, again, the Pitt game, somewhat of an anomaly. I've never seen that. I know he's probably never felt that before, but he kind of just shake it off, which he obviously did, and he came out swinging. And this team is looking very, very solid, and the defense is making the plays where they need to in the stretch as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you switched to defense here, Eric, because, man, we talk about LeQuint Allen on offense. The guy that did that for me this last game on defense was Marlowe. Like, that felt like a very Marlowe Wax game. I don't know how hurt he still is or what pain he's playing through, but he don't care, right? Like, he's out there. He's in the backfield. He's forcing turnovers. He, forced the fumble that ended the game. Like, that felt like Marlowe Wax was officially back.
I mean, that's what happens when you have a core guy back. Marlowe, obviously, his physical presence is huge, but I think just his leadership is even bigger on that defense. And he's the quarterback of that defense, and, you know, essentially he's the Kyle McCord out there. And you just see the impact that he has. And, yeah, I mean, 31 points is a lot too many to give up as a defense, but the biggest thing is that they made the plays when they needed to, and they came through when they needed to. And that is just an attribute of Marlowe and what he's been to this team. And he's obviously hurt. He's obviously toughing it out. He's not 100%, but even him at 60 or 70% is pretty phenomenal. Just the leadership aspect that he's able to rub off on.
What did I tell you about this year's group here and Fran Brown and whatever, that, you know, it's 21-3. It's November. It's the time of the year where it's all gone wrong for Syracuse here in the last handful of years. Like, it would have been easy to collapse into a mess at that point. The fact they didn't, what does that tell you about this group?
They're just resilient. And again, adversity is going to show true character. And again, that's what Coach Brown has been ironing into these guys day in and day out since he's got here. And it's impressive a first-year head coach is able to have this impact. I think a lot of the times the trend you see with these first-year head coaches is they come in and, you know, they're losing close games. Yeah, they're in a bunch, they're in 4 or 5, but they're losing it. So for him to be on the other side of it, and they're in these close games and they find and they will a way to win, that is truly just a testament of what he's established at Syracuse in a short amount of time. So you can just imagine when he continues to get these guys in and reel these recruits and establish that culture, that things are going to look up.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But great start. Well, not a great start to November, but a great finish of the starting game in November. Slow start to the game, but a great game. Wild game last week against Virginia Tech. Now here comes Boston College. What are you expecting here out of this one, Eric? Obviously, you look at their quarterback in Thomas Castellanos, and he's not afraid to run around and make some magic all over the place. How do you contain a guy like this guy?
Yeah, and I think if you stop Thomas, then you stop Boston College. You know, Thomas the train, choo-choo train. We just got to, take him off the rails, and I think that just comes with having to spy on him, not letting him get out of the pocket, not letting him make these plays, and getting him pressure. Make him be in the pocket. He's a shorter guy. If you can contain him in the pocket, he's going to have a hard time seeing over and making those throws. I don't really care what you have to say, but he wants to get out of the pocket. I've been watching film on him all year. He's made the most plays when he's outside the tackles. He's able to see the field field. His threat to run the ball is out there. But, where he's struggled and again, he's made some great throws through the pocket, but if you can collapse it on him and he's having a hard time seeing around and, it's just the basics of math. I mean, he's not going to be over 6 foot and all of his linemen are. It's going to be hard for him to see, and we just need to have tight coverage down the field and make sure that they can't rely. The run game is always going to be solid. Boston College has always tried to rely on that run game, but I think Syracuse defensively has really become more stout, and a guy like Marlowe Wax is going to get the guys in the right gaps and just be fundamentally sound. So I think if we can just stop Thomas, then things will look up, and he's going to force the ball at some point, making sure that we can get 1 or 2 turnovers and just really take him off his game.
This is not a problem you would have had, Eric, at your height, but Thomas is listed at 5'9". So, however tall he actually is, like the tallest on his tippy toes is 5'9". What is that like in the pocket? Like, you were obviously a little higher. Like, what is it like down there if you can put yourself in his mind, like trying to see? Like, it's got to be tricky at some point.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even with me, at 6'3", 6'4", I just think, I've had hard times. If you have a 6'6" tackle, you're obviously going to be hard to see over him, but it's essentially timing and location, and Thomas does probably a really good job of that, but sometimes people get bumped off their routes, and you have to see, the trajectory of which they're running on, and if their line has changed, where their rotation's going, and I think that's where Syracuse can benefit, is disguising coverages and maybe dropping a linebacker or dropping a D-end and, the quick slant windows or different variations that they can do, and I know the defensive coordinator is probably dialing up a bunch of different pressures and packages already, but there's a lot of things you can do with a shorter quarterback. There's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons. The cons is that he can really get out of the pocket and make some plays. I mean, he's very shifty, Kyler Murray-esque. So if he's out of the pocket, that's where he's really lethal. But if we can keep him in the pocket and get some pressure, then I think that's where we'll start to win the game.
All right, last thing, Eric. What do you think decides this game tomorrow?
I think what decides the game is turnovers. I think whoever's on the winning side of the turnover margin will win this game. If Kyle's able to take care of the ball, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how many points they're going to score and, get LeQuint at the end of the game there and just really take the will out of Boston College. And then if we can force Thomas Castellanos, whether it be a couple of fumbles, he does run pretty loose. He's a one-handed runner. You just got to knock that ball out or just make him throw some errant passes down the field and get a tipped ball or just a clean interception. Whoever's winning the turnover margin is winning this game.
All right, sounds good. And feels like that is oft what decides these close league rival games at this time of year. Thanks, Erica. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk again next week, all right?
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
There we go. So our guy, Eric Dungey.